Chapter 1. The Girl in the Cellar. The storm had teeth that night. Wind howled through the cracks in the stone foundation, and somewhere above, the manor's timber beams shrieked like dying animals. Sarah Ashwood pressed her cheek against the damp cellar wall, counting the tremors that shook loose centuries of dust from the ceiling above her head. 12 years. 12 years since they'd locked her down here, not as punishment for a crime, but for the sin of being born wrong. Above her, music swelled. The rhythmic pound of boots on floorboards told her the feast had begun. She could smell roasted meat through the floorboards, rich and smoky, a scent that made her stomach twist with hunger she'd learned to ignore. Voices rose in drunken celebration, her father's loudest among them. Tonight was different. Tonight, the sovereign alpha was coming. Sarah wrapped her arms around her knees and made herself smaller in the corner where the candlelight couldn't quite reach. She'd heard the servants whispering for weeks. Theron Blackwood, the Iron Alpha, ruler of the 5 territories. They said he could smell a lie from 100 paces. They said his wolf was bigger than a warhorse, with eyes like molten amber that could burn through your soul. They said he was looking for wolves to conscript for the border wars. "Don't think about it," she whispered to the darkness. "He won't even know you exist." But fate had a way of dragging secrets into the light. The cellar door crashed open. Torchlight flooded down the stairs, and her older sister Vivian descended, silk skirts rustling, wine-flushed and smiling cruelly. "Get up, little ghost," Vivian sneered. "Father's called for you." Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. "Why?" "The sovereign alpha requires tribute from every house." Vivian's smile widened. "Father's offering you." The words hit like a physical blow. "You can't, I'm family." "You?" Vivian laughed, sharp and brittle. "You're not family. You're a stain on our bloodline. A wolf who never came. Father should have drowned you at birth." Rough hands grabbed Sarah's arms. 2 guards hauled her to her feet. Her legs, weak from years of stillness, barely held her weight. They dragged her up the narrow stairs, and the world exploded into light and sound. The great hall was ablaze with candles. Hundreds of them. The heat pressed against her skin like a living thing after so long in the cold. Wolves in human form lined the walls, warriors in black leather and steel, their eyes tracking her movement with predatory focus. At the center of it all stood a man who made the room feel small. Theron Blackwood. He was taller than any man she'd ever seen, shoulders broad enough to block out the firelight behind him. His hair was dark as a raven's wing, pulled back from a face carved from granite and shadow. But it was his eyes that stopped her breath. Amber and gold, ancient and aware, fixing on her with an intensity that made her want to disappear into the stone floor. "This is your offering?" His voice was low, dangerous, like distant thunder. Her father bowed so deeply his forehead nearly touched his knee. "An Omega, your majesty. Born defective, but she's strong enough for labor. She'll serve your army well." Laughter rippled through the hall. Sarah felt her face burn with shame. Theron's expression didn't change. "Why is she trembling?" "The cellar kept her modest, my lord," her father said quickly. "She's seen little beyond these walls. Release her." The command was soft, but it cut through the noise like a blade through silk. The guards dropped her arms immediately. Sarah collapsed to her knees, the marble cold and unforgiving beneath her. She kept her eyes down, afraid that if she looked at him directly, he'd see how broken she truly was. Footsteps approached. Boots, heavy and deliberate, stopping inches from where she knelt. "What's your name?" She couldn't form words. Her throat had forgotten how. "Look at me." It wasn't a request. Slowly, Sarah lifted her gaze. Up past the black leather of his coat, past the silver wolf medallion at his throat, until she met those burning amber eyes. The world tilted. For one impossible moment, she felt something crack open inside her chest. A door she didn't know existed, swinging wide to let in light that seared and sang and burned. Her wolf, silent for 12 years, stirred. "Sarah," she whispered, and her voice came out rusted from disuse. "My name is Sarah Ashwood." Around them, the pack went silent. Even her father looked shocked that she'd spoken. Theron studied her with an expression she couldn't read. "You kept her locked away for 12 years?" Her father's smile faltered. "She's broken, your majesty. No scent. No shift. The moon goddess herself rejected." "Enough." Theron raised one hand and her father's words died. "The moon goddess doesn't reject her children. Only fools do." He turned to his second-in-command, a scarred warrior with silver streaking his dark hair. "We leave at first light." Take the girl. Gasps erupted. Her father stumbled forward. Your Majesty, surely there's been a mistake. She's worthless. Theron's eyes flashed gold. You offered her as tribute. She's mine now. 2 guards stepped forward, but they didn't grab her roughly. One offered his hand. Sarah stared at it like it was a foreign object, then slowly placed her palm in his. He helped her to her feet with surprising gentleness. The night air hit her like a wall when they led her outside. Cold, clean, alive with scents she'd forgotten existed. Pine and earth and rain-soaked stone. Her lungs burned with the unfamiliar freshness, and tears she'd been holding for 12 years finally spilled down her cheeks. They placed her in a covered wagon, wrists bound loosely with silk rope that felt more like ceremony than restraint. The manor disappeared behind them as hooves clattered against wet cobblestones. She didn't look back. Hours later, the convoy stopped at a ridge overlooking a vast valley. The moon burned silver through breaking clouds, so bright it hurt to look at directly. Theron dismounted and approached the wagon, his presence somehow both terrifying and magnetic. You lived 12 years in darkness, he said quietly. Why didn't you fight when they brought you out? Sarah met his eyes through the bars. Because I stopped believing anyone cared enough to listen. Something flickered across his face. Pain, recognition, something human beneath the Alpha's mask. I'm listening now, he said. The words hung in the air between them, warm where nothing had ever been warm before. He turned and walked back to his horse, leaving her with a feeling she couldn't name. Something that felt dangerously like hope. The journey north took 4 days. Mountains rose like teeth against the sky, the air growing thinner and colder with each mile. The soldiers spoke little around her, though she caught them watching with expressions ranging from pity to suspicion. Only Theron remained distant, riding at the front of the convoy, his back straight as a blade. On the 4th night, they reached Iron Peak Fortress, a massive structure of black stone that seemed to grow from the mountain itself. Towers clawed at the sky, and the gates were flanked by stone wolves mid-howl, their mouths frozen open in eternal warning. When Sarah stepped onto the stone bridge, the smell of iron and frost flooded her senses. But beneath it, something else stirred, a pulse that wasn't hers, deep and primal and aware. For one heartbeat, she felt another consciousness brush against her own, curious and powerful. Her wolf whispered for the first time in 12 years, home. Chapter 2. The Mark of the Forsaken. They gave her a room in the eastern tower, far from the main halls, but worlds away from the cellar that had been her prison. The chamber was small but clean, with a narrow bed, a stone fireplace, and a window that actually opened. Real heat, real air, real sky. Sarah pressed her palms against the glass and stared out at the mountains. Snow clung to the peaks like crowns of white fire. She dreamed of open spaces for so long that standing before one now felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, exhilarating and terrifying in equal measure. A knock at the door made her spin around. A young woman entered carrying a tray of food. Bread still steaming, roasted vegetables, and a cup of something that smelled like honey and herbs. She had kind eyes and auburn hair braided down her back. Eat before it cools, the woman said softly, setting the tray on the small table. The sovereign doesn't waste food, and he doesn't tolerate starving guests. Sarah's stomach clenched with hunger, but suspicion held her back. He sent this. The woman hesitated. No one else would dare. Why? The question escaped before Sarah could stop it. Why would he care if I eat? The woman's expression shifted, part sympathy, part warning. That's not for me to answer. But if I were you, I'd eat while the food is hot and the Alpha's mood is generous. Both are rare here. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. My name is Marin. If you need anything, ask for me. And whatever you do, don't wander the fortress alone after dark. There are wolves here who don't believe an Omega belongs among warriors. The door closed with a soft click. Sarah approached the food like it might vanish if she moved too quickly. The bread was warm and soft, nothing like the stale crusts she'd survived on in the cellar. The first bite brought tears to her eyes. She ate slowly, savoring every morsel, until the tray was empty and her stomach ached with unfamiliar fullness. That night, sleep came fitfully. Dreams tangled with memories. The cellar's darkness bleeding into visions of amber eyes and a voice that said, I'm listening now. She woke gasping more than once, unsure if the pounding she heard was her own heartbeat or something prowling the corridors outside. Morning came gray and cold. Marin returned with fresh clothes, simple but well-made, nothing like the rags Sarah had worn for years. There was even a basin of warm water for washing. "The sovereign wants to see you," Marin said as Sarah dressed. "In the council chamber. Don't keep him waiting." Fear coiled in Sarah's chest. "Did I do something wrong?" "No." Marin's expression softened. "But there are others who wish you had." The council chamber was a vast circular room with a domed ceiling painted with constellations. A massive table dominated the center, carved from a single piece of black oak. Around it stood a dozen wolves in human form. Advisors, warriors, all radiating power and hostility. Theron sat at the head of the table, one hand resting on the arm of his chair, his expression unreadable. When Sarah entered, every eye turned to her. The silence was suffocating. "Come forward," Theron commanded. Sarah's legs felt like stone, but she obeyed, stopping a few feet from the table. She kept her eyes down, heart hammering. "This is the Omega?" A man with a scarred face and cold gray eyes spoke first. His voice dripped with disdain. "This is what you brought back from the southern territories? A wolf who can't shift." "Careful, Garrison," Theron said quietly. "You're speaking about someone under my protection." Garrison's lip curled. "Protection? My lord, the warriors are already questioning your judgment. You claim a broken Omega as tribute while our borders burn. The northern rogues grow bolder every day, and you waste resources on." "Enough!" The single word silenced the room. Theron's eyes flashed amber, and the air itself seemed to compress under the weight of his authority. He stood, his full height making the others look small by comparison. "I didn't summon you here for your opinions on my decisions. I summoned you to witness." "Witness what?" an older woman asked, her tone carefully neutral. Theron's gaze fell on Sarah, and something in his expression made her breath catch. "The moon goddess marks those she chooses in ways we don't always understand. I believe this Omega carries a gift we've been too blind to see." "Gift?" Garrison laughed bitterly. "She has no scent, no wolf, no. She has a mark." The room went deathly still. Theron descended from the dais and crossed to Sarah. "Show them." Sarah's hands trembled. "I don't understand." "Your shoulder blade," Theron said softly. "The mark you've carried since birth. The one your family tried to hide." Her blood turned to ice. How did he know? She'd never told anyone. Even Vivian didn't know about the strange silvery mark that had appeared on her skin when she was 7 years old. A crescent moon wrapped in thorns. "I can't," her voice broke. Theron's expression gentled, but his command remained firm. "Trust me." Against every instinct screaming at her to run, Sarah reached back and loosened the collar of her dress, pulling it down just enough to expose her left shoulder blade. Gasps filled the chamber. The mark blazed silver in the candlelight, intricate and beautiful. A moon encircled by thorn vines that seemed to shimmer and move across her skin like living ink. "Impossible," someone whispered. The older woman stepped closer, her eyes wide. "That's the seal of the forgotten." "What does that mean?" Sarah asked, her voice barely audible. Theron answered, his tone grave. "It means you're not broken. You're bound. Your wolf was sealed at birth by ancient magic, a protection ritual used only in the bloodlines of the first Lunas." Sarah's world tilted. That's not possible. My family is nothing. Your father lied." Theron's words cut through her confusion like a blade. "I had my scholars research your lineage. Your mother wasn't born into the Ashwood house. She was adopted after being found as an infant during the Blood Moon War." The room spun. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying your mother was a survivor of the Moonshadow Pack, one of the lost Luna lines. And that mark on your back proves it." Garrison slammed his fist on the table. "This is madness. Even if she carries Luna blood, her wolf is sealed. She's useless to us." "Then we break the seal," Theron said calmly. Silence. The older woman, Theron introduced her as Elder Kasha, shook her head slowly. "Breaking a seal like that requires a blood bond. And not just any bond. It requires the bite of a true mate." Theron's jaw tightened. "Then we'll find another way." But Kasha's eyes had already shifted to Sarah, calculating. "There's more, isn't there? You didn't just bring her here out of mercy." For the first time, Theron hesitated. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, almost reluctant. "When I saw her, I felt the pull." The room erupted. "Impossible. You can't be suggesting. She's an Omega." Theron's power crashed over them like a tidal wave, forcing every wolf in the room to their knees. All except Sarah, who stood frozen, her mind reeling. "I felt the pull," Theron repeated, his voice like iron. And until I know what that means, she stays under my protection. Anyone who challenges that challenges me. No one spoke. He turned back to Sarah, his amber eyes blazing with something fierce and unreadable. You'll stay here until we understand what you are. Do you accept? Sarah's voice came out as a whisper. Do I have a choice? Yes. His answer surprised her. You can leave if you wish. I'll provide you safe passage anywhere in the 5 territories. She looked around the room at the hostile faces, then back at Theron. For 12 years, she'd been a prisoner in darkness. But standing here, marked by the moon and caught in the gaze of an alpha who saw her as something more than broken, she realized she didn't want to run. I'll stay, she said. Something like relief flickered across Theron's face. Then it settled. He addressed the council. Meeting dismissed. Kasha, I need you to research breaking seals. Garrison, double the patrols. If word spreads that we have a Lunaborn Omega here, the rogues will come for her. As the council filed out, shooting Sarah dark looks, Kasha paused beside Theron. If she truly is your mate, the elder said quietly, the bond will demand completion. And when that seal breaks, her wolf will be powerful. Powerful enough to threaten every pack that fears a Luna's return. Theron's expression hardened. Let them fear. Chapter 3. The Wolf Beneath the Skin. The fortress changed after the council meeting. Whispers followed Sarah through the corridors like shadows, and wolves who had once ignored her now watched with calculating eyes. Some looked at her with hunger, others with hatred. None looked at her with indifference. Marin became her constant companion, a buffer against the suspicion that permeated every stone of Iron Peak. Don't mind them, Marin said as they walked through the training yards 3 days later. Half of them are terrified you'll wake up tomorrow as a full Luna and strip them of their ranks. The other half think you're a spy sent by the rogues. Sarah pulled her cloak tighter against the biting wind. And what do you think? Marin's smile was wry. I think you're the first interesting thing to happen here in years. Also, you're polite, which is more than I can say for most of the warriors. Below them, soldiers sparred in the snow-dusted yard. The clash of steel and snarling wolves filled the air. Sarah's gaze drifted over the fighters until it landed on one figure who moved like water through stone. Theron. He fought bare-chested despite the cold, his skin marked with scars that told stories of 100 battles. He moved with brutal efficiency, disarming his opponent in 3 moves before shifting mid-strike. His wolf exploded from his human form in a ripple of power, massive, black as midnight, with eyes that burned like liquid gold. Sarah's breath caught. She'd never seen anything so magnificent and terrifying. The wolf pinned his opponent to the ground, jaws inches from the other wolf's throat, holding the position until submission was given. Then Theron shifted back, offering his hand to help the defeated warrior to his feet. He trains every day, Marin said softly. Dawn until noon. He says an alpha who doesn't bleed with his warriors doesn't deserve their loyalty. Does it work? Sarah asked, unable to look away. See for yourself. Around the yard, every soldier watched Theron with something close to reverence. Even those he'd just defeated looked at him with respect rather than resentment. As if sensing her gaze, Theron's head turned. His amber eyes found hers across the distance, and the world narrowed to that single point of connection. Heat flooded through Sarah's body, her pulse quickening. The strange pull she'd felt the first night returned, stronger now, like an invisible thread drawing her toward him. Theron's expression shifted, something raw and hungry flickering across his face before he mastered it. He turned away first, barking orders to his second-in-command. Come on, Marin said, tugging Sarah's arm. We should go before someone notices you staring. But as they left, Sarah felt eyes on her back. When she glanced over her shoulder, she saw Garrison watching from the shadows of the armory, his expression dark with malice. That evening, Elder Kasha summoned Sarah to the archives, a vast underground library carved into the mountain itself. Thousands of scrolls and books lined the walls, their spines cracked with age. Sit, Kasha commanded, gesturing to a chair beside a table covered in ancient texts. Sarah obeyed, her hands folded in her lap. Kasha studied her with sharp green eyes that missed nothing. Do you know why Luna bloodlines were hunted to extinction? No, Elder. Power. Kasha opened a tome bound in black leather. True Lunas weren't just mates to alphas. They were the balance. Where alphas commanded through strength, Lunas ruled through will. They could heal the wounded, calm the bloodlust, and in rare cases, She tapped a faded illustration of a silver wolf wreathed in moonlight. They could command the moon itself. Sarah's mouth went dry. That's just legend. Is it? Cash's gaze bored into her. That mark on your back isn't legend. The seal binding your wolf isn't legend. 200 years ago, the Alpha clans grew afraid of Luna power. They orchestrated the Blood Moon Massacre, killing every Lunaborn female they could find. Your mother survived because someone sealed her wolf and hid her bloodline. Why are you telling me this? Because if Theron breaks that seal, you won't just be an Omega anymore. You'll become a threat to every Alpha who fears losing control. And there are many. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. What if I don't want this power? Cash's expression softened slightly. Power doesn't care what we want, child. It comes regardless. The question is, will you be ready when it does? Before Sarah could respond, the door to the archives burst open. A bloodied warrior stumbled in, gasping. Elder, we're under attack. Rogues at the western gate. Kasha was on her feet instantly. How many? 20, maybe more. They're not after supplies. They're asking for the Omega by name. Sarah's heart stopped. Kasha grabbed her arm. Come. Now. They ran through twisting corridors, the sounds of battle growing louder. Howls, screams, the clash of steel on claw. Kasha pulled Sarah into a hidden passage behind a tapestry. Stay here, the elder commanded. Don't move, don't make a sound. Do you understand? What's happening? What I feared. Someone wants you badly enough to challenge the sovereign in his own fortress. Kasha pressed a small dagger into Sarah's hand. If anyone but Theron or myself opens this passage, use this. She disappeared, leaving Sarah alone in the darkness. Minutes crawled by like hours. The sounds of battle seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Sarah gripped the dagger so hard her knuckles turned white, her breath coming in short gasps. Then she heard it, a voice, slithering through the walls like poison. Little Omega. Little Luna. Come out, come out. We only want to talk. Footsteps approached the tapestry. Slow. Deliberate. I can smell your fear. Sweet as honeyed wine. The tapestry moved. Sarah pressed herself against the wall, raising the dagger with trembling hands. A figure stepped into the passage, tall, gaunt, with eyes that reflected red in the darkness. Not amber like Theron's. Red like blood. There you are, the rogue whispered, his smile revealing teeth filed to points. Sarah slashed with the dagger. The rogue caught her wrist easily, twisting until the blade clattered to the floor. His grip was iron, his breath rancid against her face. Such fire, he crooned. The master will be pleased. Let her go. The voice came from behind the rogue, low and deadly as a winter storm. Theron stood in the passage entrance, human-formed but radiating such raw power that the air itself seemed to vibrate. His eyes blazed gold and blood dripped from his knuckles. The rogue's smile widened. Sovereign, we were just getting acquainted with your... He didn't finish. Theron moved faster than Sarah's eyes could follow. One moment he was across the passage. The next his hand was wrapped around the rogue's throat, lifting him off the ground. You touched what's mine, Theron growled, and his voice was more wolf than man. The rogue clawed at Theron's arm, gasping, his face turning purple. Please, the master, he'll reward you. I don't care about your master. Theron's grip tightened. Tell him if he wants her, he can face me himself. With a sickening crack, the rogue went limp. Theron dropped the body and turned to Sarah, his expression shifting from murderous to concerned in a heartbeat. Are you hurt? His hands hovered over her arms, checking for injuries without actually touching her. Sarah shook her head, unable to form words. She was trembling so hard her teeth chattered. Without hesitation, Theron pulled her against his chest, one hand cradling the back of her head. You're safe. I've got you. His heartbeat thundered beneath her ear, strong and steady. His scent, pine and smoke and something uniquely him, surrounded her, and slowly the trembling eased. Who were they? She whispered against his chest. Rogues from the Bloodfang pack. They've been testing our borders for months, but this is the first time they've attacked the fortress directly. His jaw clenched. Someone told them about you. Sarah pulled back to look at him. Garrison. I don't have proof yet, but when I do... Theron's eyes flashed gold. He'll answer for it. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Garrison appeared with a squad of warriors, all of them bloodied but victorious. The rogues are dead or fleeing, my lord, Garrison reported, his eyes flicking to where Theron still held Sarah. Something dark passed over his features. all except their leader. He escaped during the chaos. Find him, Theron commanded. I want to know who sent them and why. Garrison hesitated. My lord, perhaps it would be wiser to remove the source of their interest. The Omega endangers us all. The temperature in the passage dropped. Theron released Sarah slowly, stepping between her and Garrison. Say that again. To his credit, Garrison didn't back down. She's a liability. Every rogue pack within 100 miles will come for her now. How many of our warriors must die to protect one Omega? As many as it takes. Theron's voice was deadly quiet. She's under my protection, and that makes her pack. If you can't accept that, there's the door. The standoff stretched, tension crackling like lightning between the two alphas. Finally, Garrison bowed stiffly. As you command, Sovereign. He left, but not before shooting Sarah a look that promised this wasn't over. When they were alone again, Sarah touched Theron's arm. He's right, isn't he? I'm putting everyone in danger. No. Theron turned to face her fully. You're not the danger. The ones who hunt you are. And I won't let them win. Why? The question burst from her. Why do you care so much about an Omega you barely know? For a long moment, Theron said nothing. Then he reached up and brushed a strand of hair from her face, his touch impossibly gentle for hands that had just killed. Because when I look at you, he said quietly, I see someone worth fighting for. Someone who survived 12 years in darkness and still has light in her eyes. That's not weakness. That's strength I've rarely seen in warriors twice your size. His thumb traced the line of her jaw, and Sarah's breath hitched. And because, he continued, his voice dropping to barely a whisper, the moon has never led me astray. If she marked you, there's a reason. I intend to find out what it is. Their faces were inches apart. Sarah's heart hammered so loudly she was certain he could hear it. For one breathless moment, she thought he might kiss her. Instead, Theron stepped back, his expression shuddering. I'm assigning guards to your door, he said, his tone returning to that of a commander. And you'll train with Marin starting tomorrow. If rogues are coming for you, you need to know how to defend yourself. He walked away before Sarah could respond, leaving her in the passage with her heart racing and her lips tingling from a kiss that never happened. Behind her, in the shadows, the dead rogue's body began to steam. Black smoke rose from his skin and carved into his chest, revealed now in death, was a symbol Sarah had seen before. A broken crown dripping with blood, the mark of the exiled king. Chapter 4, Blood and Moonlight. Training began at dawn. Sarah stood in the frozen yard, her breath misting in the air, wearing leather training gear that Marin had provided. Around her, warriors ran drills, shifting, sparring, moving with a fluid grace that made her feel clumsy and exposed. Don't compare yourself to them, Marin said, tossing Sarah a wooden practice staff. They've been training since they could walk. You're starting from nothing, which means you have nothing to lose. Except my dignity, Sarah muttered, catching the staff awkwardly. Marin grinned. Dignity is overrated. Survival isn't. Now stance. For 2 hours, Marin drilled her relentlessly. How to hold a weapon. How to pivot. How to fall without breaking bones. Sarah's muscles screamed, her hands blistered, but she gritted her teeth and pushed through. She'd survived 12 years in a cellar. She could survive this. Better, Marin said as Sarah managed to block a strike without stumbling. You're learning fast. Fast enough to fight rogues. Fast enough not to die immediately. That's progress. A slow clap echoed across the yard. Garrison approached, flanked by 2 warriors who looked at Sarah like she was prey. Touching, Garrison drawled. The Omega plays at being a warrior. Tell me, does the Sovereign know you're wasting the pack's resources on this charade? Marin stepped forward, her hand moving to the blade at her hip. The Sovereign ordered her training himself. Do you question his commands? Garrison's smile was cold. I question his judgment, but perhaps I'm wrong. Perhaps the little Omega has hidden talents. He gestured to the center of the yard. Prove it. 1 round. If you can last 30 seconds against me, I'll never speak against you again. Sarah's stomach dropped. I've only been training for 2 hours. Then you should be fresh. His eyes glittered with malice. Unless you're afraid? Don't, Marin hissed. He's baiting you. Garrison was champion of the Southern tournaments for 5 years. He'll break every bone in your body. But warriors were gathering now, drawn by the scent of conflict. Sarah felt their eyes on her, judging, waiting to see if she'd run. She thought of 12 years locked away. Of being called broken, worthless, a stain. 1 round, she said, stepping into the center of the ring. Garrison's smile widened. Excellent. No shifting, no weapons. Just hand to hand. First to yield loses. Maren started to protest, but Sarah raised a hand. It's fine. It wasn't fine. She knew it wasn't fine. But something inside her, something that had been sleeping for 12 years, refused to back down. They circled each other. Garrison moved with predatory grace, confident and relaxed. Sarah kept her guard up, remembering everything Maren had taught her in the last 2 hours. Watch the shoulders. Anticipate the strike. Stay light on your feet. Garrison lunged. Sarah dodged left, but not fast enough. His fist caught her shoulder, spinning her around. Pain exploded through her arm. She stumbled but didn't fall, using the momentum to roll away. The warriors murmured. Impressed she'd lasted 5 seconds, probably. Come now, Garrison taunted. Fight back. She tried. Moon help her, she tried. But he was faster, stronger, trained. Every strike she threw, he countered. Every dodge, he predicted. Within 20 seconds, she was bleeding from a split lip, her ribs screaming, her vision blurring. Garrison grabbed her by the throat and lifted her off the ground. Yield, he commanded. Sarah clawed at his hand, gasping. The world grayed at the edges. I said yield. Through the roaring in her ears, Sarah heard something else, a distant howl, primal and furious. The mark on her shoulder blade burned like fire. And then everything changed. Power erupted from somewhere deep inside her, a surge of energy so intense it felt like lightning in her veins. Silver light exploded from her skin, blinding and pure. Garrison screamed and dropped her, his hand smoking where he'd touched her. Sarah collapsed to her knees, gasping, staring at her hands. They glowed with silvery light, pulsing in time with her heartbeat. The mark on her back blazed through her clothing, visible as a silver brand. Every wolf in the yard had gone silent, many backing away in fear. Impossible, someone whispered. Garrison staggered backward, cradling his burned hand. Witch. She's cursed. No. The voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Theron strode into the yard, his presence instantly commanding attention. His eyes blazed as he took in the scene. Sarah on her knees, glowing like a fallen star, Garrison clutching his hand, the gathered crowd frozen in shock. She's not cursed, Theron said, his voice deadly calm. She's awakening. He knelt beside Sarah, seemingly unbothered by the light radiating from her skin. His hand cupped her face, tilting it up so she met his eyes. Breathe, he commanded softly. The power responds to fear. Control your fear, and you control it. I can't, it's too much. Yes, you can. His thumb stroked her cheek, grounding her. Focus on my voice. Nothing else exists right now. Just you and me. Sarah locked onto his amber eyes, using them as an anchor. Slowly, painfully, she pulled the power back in. The light dimmed, retreating beneath her skin like a tide pulling away from shore. When it finally faded, she collapsed against Theron's chest, shaking with exhaustion. He stood, lifting her effortlessly in his arms, and turned to face Garrison. The temperature dropped. You challenged an untrained Omega to a fight, Theron said, his voice soft and more terrifying for it. You put your hands on her throat. You tried to humiliate her in front of the pack. Garrison straightened, defiant despite his fear. I was testing her strength, my lord. If she's to be protected, we need to know. You were asserting dominance over someone you see as weak. That ends now. Theron's eyes flashed. You're stripped of your rank as second. Report to the border patrols. If you survive a month defending against the rogues you seem so concerned about, we'll discuss your future. Garrison's face went white. My lord, please. Dismissed. The word was final. Garrison shot Sarah a look of pure hatred before stalking away, his former followers melting into the crowd to avoid association with his disgrace. Theron addressed the gathered warriors. Training resumes in 1 hour. Anyone who has a problem with the Omega's presence here can join Garrison at the border. No one moved. No one spoke. Theron carried Sarah toward the fortress, Maren trailing behind. That was incredibly stupid, Maren muttered as they climbed the stairs. Also incredibly brave, but mostly stupid. I know, Sarah whispered. Theron said nothing until they reached her chambers. He laid her gently on the bed, then turned to Maren. Fetch Elder Kasha. Tell her the seal is breaking. Maren's eyes widened, but she nodded and disappeared. Alone with Theron, Sarah finally found her voice. What's happening to me? Your wolf is waking up. He sat on the edge of the bed, close enough to touch but carefully keeping distance. The seal was designed to suppress your power, but strong emotion can crack it. Fear, anger, pain, they're all triggers. Will it kill me? No. His hand found hers, fingers intertwining. But it will be painful. The seal has held for 12 years. Breaking it all at once could destroy your mind. We need to do it carefully, gradually. How? He hesitated. There are rituals. Blood magic. Ancient rites that Elder Kasha can perform. But they take time, and time is something we may not have. Because of the rogues. Because of whoever sent them. Theron's jaw clenched. I had my scouts examine the bodies. They all bore the same mark, a broken crown. That's the symbol of the exiled king. Sarah's blood ran cold. I've heard stories. The alpha who tried to overthrow the moon goddess herself. Not just stories. Legends. He was banished beyond the veil 300 years ago. But the prophecy says he'll return when a Lunaborn rises again. Theron's eyes met hers. You're the first Lunaborn in 2 centuries, Sarah. If the exiled king is truly returning, you're either his greatest threat or his key to freedom. What does that mean? It means every choice we make from this moment forward will determine not just your fate, but the fate of every pack in the 5 territories. The weight of his words settled over her like a shroud. Sarah wanted to laugh, to cry, to scream that this was impossible. A month ago, she'd been a prisoner in a cellar. Now she was supposedly the key to an ancient prophecy. I'm not strong enough for this, she whispered. Not yet. Theron squeezed her hand. But you will be. I'll make sure of it. Why? She turned to face him fully. Why are you doing all this for me? You barely know me. For a long moment, Theron was silent. When he finally spoke, his voice was raw in a way she'd never heard before. When I was young, my father told me that true mates are the moon's greatest gift. 2 souls bound so tightly that even death can't separate them. I spent years looking for mine, convinced I'd feel it the moment we met. He paused. Then you walked into that hall, broken and trembling, and something in my chest came alive for the first time in my life. I don't know if you're my mate, but I know that when I look at you, I see someone worth every risk, every battle, every sacrifice. Sarah's breath caught. Theron. A knock at the door interrupted them. Elder Kasha entered, her expression grave. Show me, the elder commanded. Reluctantly, Sarah turned and lowered her collar. The mark blazed silver, its edges now extending further across her shoulder, the thorn vines spreading like roots seeking purchase. Kasha's face went pale. It's worse than I thought. The seal is fracturing rapidly. At this rate, it will shatter completely within 3 days. Can you stabilize it? Theron asked. I can try, but there's only one sure way to control the breaking, a mate bond. If she has a true mate, his bite during the marking ritual would guide the power safely. Theron and Sarah's eyes met. If she doesn't have a mate? He asked quietly. Kasha's silence was answer enough. Then we have 3 days, Theron said, standing. Kasha, prepare whatever rituals you can. Marin, increase security. I want guards on this door day and night. No one gets in without my approval. And you, my lord? Kasha asked. Theron looked at Sarah, something fierce and protective burning in his eyes. I'm not leaving her side. After Kasha left, Theron pulled a chair beside Sarah's bed and settled into it like he was preparing for a siege. You don't have to stay, Sarah said. Yes, I do. I'm fine. You have a kingdom to run. The kingdom can wait. His tone left no room for argument. 3 days ago, I nearly lost you to rogues. I'm not making that mistake again. Sarah wanted to argue, but exhaustion pulled at her. The power surge had drained her more than she'd realized. Her eyes drifted closed despite her best efforts to stay awake. The last thing she felt was Theron's hand covering hers, warm and solid and safe. And in her dreams she ran. Not as a girl, but as a wolf, silver and radiant, racing beneath a moon that sang her name. Beside her ran another wolf, black as midnight with eyes of burning gold, matching her stride for stride as if they'd been running together for 1,000 years. Chapter 5. The Ritual of Thorns. Sarah woke to find Theron still beside her, slumped in the chair with his head tilted back, eyes closed. In sleep, the harsh lines of his face softened. He looked younger, almost vulnerable, until his eyes snapped open the instant she stirred, alert and focused. How long was I asleep? She asked, her voice rough. 6 hours. He straightened, rolling his shoulders. How do you feel? Sarah took inventory. The burning in her shoulder blade had subsided to a dull ache. The silver light no longer pulsed beneath her skin. But something else had changed. She could feel a presence now, coiled deep inside her consciousness. Watching. Waiting. Different, she admitted. Like there's something inside me that wasn't there before. Your wolf, Theron said. She's stirring. The seal is weakening. A knock interrupted them. Marin entered carrying a tray of food, her expression troubled. Elder Kasha requests your presence in the ritual chamber, she said. Both of you. She says she's found something in the old texts. The ritual chamber lay deep beneath the fortress, carved into the mountain's heart. Ancient symbols covered the walls, glowing faintly in the torchlight. At the center stood a circular altar of black stone, its surface etched with lunar phases. Elder Kasha waited beside it, surrounded by scrolls and books that looked older than the fortress itself. I've been researching sealing rituals all night, she said without preamble. And I've discovered something troubling. The seal on Sarah's wolf isn't just suppression magic. It's a blood seal. Theron's expression darkened. Meaning it was cast using the blood of her own family. Someone who shared her lineage performed this ritual when she was an infant. Kasha gestured to an open scroll covered in crimson script. Blood seals can only be broken in two ways. Either the caster releases it willingly, or, Sarah prompted when the elder hesitated, or the sealed individual forms a blood bond stronger than the one that bound her. A mate bond. Silence filled the chamber. What if she doesn't have a mate? Marin asked quietly. Kasha's gaze shifted between Theron and Sarah. Then when the seal breaks, and it will break within 2 days now, her wolf will emerge uncontrolled. The power will tear her apart from the inside. Sarah's hands trembled. There has to be another way. There is one possibility. Kasha approached Sarah, studying her with those penetrating green eyes. A trial bond. It's an ancient practice, rarely used, where an alpha offers a temporary bond to stabilize the omega's wolf during emergence. If the bond proves false, it dissolves naturally within a moon cycle. But if it proves true, it becomes permanent, Theron finished, his voice carefully neutral. Yes, the marking ceremony would need to happen before the seal breaks completely. Tonight, preferably. The weight of the decision pressed down on them. Sarah looked at Theron, trying to read his expression, but his face had returned to that carved granite mask. I won't force you, he said quietly. This is your choice. Some choice, Sarah laughed bitterly. Accept a bond with a man I barely know, or die when my wolf tears me apart. There are worse fates than death, Theron said. Being bound to someone you can't stand is one of them. If you'd rather take your chances with the seal breaking naturally, I'll support that decision. Sarah studied him. In the days since he'd claimed her as tribute, he'd protected her, defended her, killed for her. But he'd never once tried to claim her as his. Even now, offering a bond that could save her life, he gave her the freedom to refuse. That more than anything made her decision. I'll do it, she said. The trial bond. Something flickered in Theron's eyes, relief, fear, hope, she couldn't tell. Then we begin preparations immediately, Kasha said. The ritual must be performed under moonlight. Sarah, you'll need to bathe in moon-blessed water and fast until sunset. Theron, you'll need to meditate and center your wolf. If either of you enters the ceremony with doubt or fear, the bond will fail. What happens if it fails? Marin asked. Kasha's expression was grim. Best not to think about that. The hours until sunset crawled by like years. Sarah spent them in a stone bath filled with water that glowed faintly silver, infused with herbs that smelled of moonflowers and sage. Marin stayed with her, unusually quiet. Are you afraid? Marin finally asked. Terrified, Sarah admitted. What if the bond fails? What if I'm not actually his mate and we both die because of my arrogance? Theron wouldn't agree if he thought it would fail. He's many things, but he's not reckless with his pack's safety. Marin paused. I've served him for 5 years. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. How does he look at me? Like you're the moon and he's been lost in darkness for centuries. Sarah's throat tightened. She wanted to believe it. But what if it was just duty? What if Theron was only doing this because his honor demanded he protect those under his care? As the sun began to set, Kasha arrived with ceremonial robes. White silk that seemed to shimmer with its own light. Sarah dressed with trembling hands. One more thing, Kasha said, producing a silver circlet. This has been worn by every Luna who underwent the bonding ceremony. It will help focus your wolf's energy during the marking. The circlet was delicate, wrought with phases of the moon. When Kasha placed it on Sarah's head, warmth spread through her skull, comforting and ancient. They led her to the highest tower of the fortress, where a circular platform opened to the sky. The moon was already rising, massive and silver, casting everything in ethereal light. Theron waited at the center of the platform. He wore ceremonial robes of black and silver, his hair unbound, falling to his shoulders. In the moonlight, he looked like something out of legend, powerful, dangerous, beautiful. His eyes found hers across the distance, and Sarah's breath caught. Elder Kasha stood between them, raising her hands. We gather under the moon's witness to forge a bond of blood and spirit. Alpha Theron Blackwood, do you offer your strength to stabilize this Omega's emerging wolf? I do. His voice carried across the platform, strong and certain. Sarah Ashwood, do you accept his protection and pledge your trust in return? Sarah's voice came out steadier than she expected. I do. Then approach. They moved toward each other, meeting at the center where Kasha had drawn a circle in silver powder. The moment they both stepped inside, the powder ignited with pale flame, creating a ring of moonfire around them. Join hands, Kasha commanded. Theron's hands were warm, calloused from years of sword work. Sarah's fit perfectly inside them, as if they'd been made to hold each other. The bond requires 3 exchanges, Kasha said. Blood, breath, and vow. Are you both willing? Yes, they said in unison. Kasha produced a ceremonial dagger, its blade inscribed with lunar symbols. Blood first. Alpha, offer your palm. Theron held out his hand without hesitation. Kasha drew the blade across his palm, deep enough to well with blood. Then she did the same to Sarah's hand. Press them together. The moment their palms touched, power surged through Sarah like lightning. She gasped, her knees buckling, but Theron steadied her with his free hand. Hold on, he murmured. I've got you. Their blood mingled, dripping onto the platform where each drop blazed silver before fading. Sarah felt something fundamental shift inside her, like a door unlocking, ancient and profound. Blood given, blood received, Kasha intoned. Now the breath. Face each other. They stood inches apart now, close enough that Sarah could see flecks of gold in Theron's amber eyes, could feel the heat radiating from his skin. You must share breath, Kasha said. One breath given freely to bind spirit to spirit. Theron's hand cupped Sarah's face, tilting it up. Trust me, he whispered. Then he leaned down and pressed his lips to hers. It wasn't a kiss, not quite. It was something more primal, more sacred. He breathed out as she breathed in, their breath mingling, warm and alive. Power exploded through Sarah's body, white-hot and overwhelming. She felt Theron's wolf rising to meet hers, felt the boundaries between them blur and dissolve. For one eternal moment, they were one consciousness. His strength and her light, his control and her wildness, merged into something neither could achieve alone. When they pulled apart, both were trembling. Kasha's voice cut through the haze. Now the vow. Speak from the heart, or the bond will fail. Theron's eyes never left Sarah's face. I vow to protect you, not because duty demands it, but because my soul recognizes yours. I vow to stand beside you in darkness and light, to guard your back in battle and your heart in peace. I vow that your enemies are my enemies, your dreams are my dreams, and your life is more precious to me than my own. Tears streamed down Sarah's cheeks. She knew what she had to say, felt the words rising from somewhere deeper than thought. I vow to trust you with the parts of me I've kept hidden, to be your shelter when the storms come, and your light when darkness falls. I vow to stand with you, not behind you or beneath you, but as your equal and your partner. I vow that your burdens are mine to share, your battles mine to fight, and your heart mine to protect until the moon herself falls from the sky. The circle of moonfire blazed higher, brighter, until it was blinding. Then by blood, breath, and vow, I declare this bond forged, Kasha proclaimed. What the moon has joined, let no force tear asunder. Theron's hand moved to the back of Sarah's neck, his eyes flashing gold. This will hurt, he warned, but I'll be as gentle as I can. Sarah tilted her head, exposing her throat, the ultimate sign of trust for any wolf. His canines extended, longer and sharper than any human's. Then he struck, sinking his teeth into the junction of her neck and shoulder. White-hot pain blazed through her, but beneath it rolled something else, pleasure, dark and intoxicating. Power surged along the bond they'd just forged, Theron's wolf claiming hers, anchoring her spirit before it could fly apart. On her back, the seal shattered. Sarah screamed as 12 years of suppressed power exploded outward. Her wolf, denied for so long, surged to the surface with primal fury. Silver light erupted from her skin, brighter than the moon itself, so intense that Kasha had to shield her eyes. Through the agony, Sarah felt Theron's presence like an anchor in a storm, steady, unbreakable, guiding her wolf's emergence with his own strength. Easy, his voice echoed in her mind, the mate bond allowing thought speech. Let it flow, don't fight it. I'm here. Sarah's body convulsed. Bones shifted, reformed, her human shape giving way to something new. Fur erupted across her skin, silver as starlight, each strand tipped with gold. Her senses exploded outward. She could smell every living thing within a mile, could hear heartbeats like drums, could taste the moonlight on her tongue. When the transformation completed, she stood on 4 legs for the first time in her life. Her wolf was massive, larger than any Omega had a right to be, nearly matching Theron's alpha form in size. Her coat shimmered like liquid silver, and her eyes glowed with lunar light. Theron shifted beside her, his black wolf magnificent and powerful. He pressed his muzzle against hers, a gesture of welcome and pride. Beautiful, his voice purred in her mind. You're magnificent. Sarah wanted to respond, but her wolf had other ideas. 12 years of captivity demanded release. She threw her head back and howled, a sound that shattered across the mountains, pure and wild and free. Every wolf in the fortress answered. The chorus of howls rose until the very stones trembled. In that moment, Sarah felt it, the bond connecting her not just to Theron, but to every wolf who called this place home. She was Pack now. She was Luna. She was finally completely whole. But in the shadows beyond the fortress walls, something ancient stirred. A consciousness that had waited centuries for this moment, sensing the Luna's awakening like a predator scenting blood on the wind. In a cave beyond the veil, crimson eyes opened. The exiled king smiled. Finally, he whispered. She rises. Chapter 6, Shadows of the Past. Sarah woke tangled in silk sheets, her body aching in ways she'd never experienced. Sunlight streamed through the window, harsh and bright. She groaned and rolled over, directly into a wall of warm muscle. Theron. He lay beside her, still asleep, one arm draped possessively across her waist. In the morning light, she could see the bite mark she'd left on his shoulder during the bonding ceremony. A perfect crescent of silver that matched the one he'd given her. The mate bond hummed between them, a living thing that pulsed with warmth and awareness. She could feel his emotions like they were her own. Contentment, protectiveness, and underneath it all, a fierce possessiveness that should have frightened her but instead made her feel safe. His eyes opened, amber and alert instantly. How do you feel? Like I was torn apart and put back together. Sarah stretched, wincing as muscles protested. Is it always like that? First shifts are never easy. You managed better than most. His hand traced the bite mark on her neck, and pleasure rippled through the bond. The mark took well. You're officially Pack now. My mate. The word sent a thrill through her, followed quickly by uncertainty. The trial bond. It was supposed to last a month before becoming permanent. It was. Theron propped himself up on one elbow, his expression serious. But when your wolf emerged, the bond solidified immediately. There's no dissolving it now. We're bound for life. Sarah searched his face for regret, but found none. Are you sorry? No. His answer was immediate, certain. Are you? Before she could respond, urgent knocking shattered the moment. My lord, a warrior's voice, strained with panic. The border scouts have returned. You need to see this. Theron was out of bed instantly, pulling on clothes with practiced efficiency. Stay here, he commanded. I'll return shortly. But Sarah was already standing, reaching for the training leathers Marin had left. If it concerns the Pack, it concerns me. I'm Luna now, remember? Something like pride flashed in Theron's eyes. Then let's go, Luna. The war room was chaos. Maps covered every surface, marked with red ink that Sarah quickly realized represented rogue attacks. Warriors crowded around the central table, where Elder Kasha stood with 2 blood-splattered scouts. Everyone fell silent when Theron entered, but their eyes went to Sarah. She felt the weight of their stares, some curious, some hostile, most uncertain. The silver mark on her neck proclaimed her status, but marks alone didn't earn respect. Report, Theron commanded, moving to the table. The first scout, a woman with a scarred face, spoke. The western border is compromised. 3 villages burned in the last 2 days. Survivors report an army of rogues, at least 200 strong, bearing the mark of the broken crown. Murmurs erupted. 200 was a small army, far more than the usual rogue packs. "That's not all, my lord," the second scout said, his voice shaking. "They're not just killing. They're taking prisoners. Only certain ones, children born under the blood moon, women with Luna heritage, anyone with silver in their eyes." Sarah's blood ran cold. "They're looking for Lunaborn." All eyes turned to her. Elder Kasha nodded grimly. "It appears the exiled king is gathering ingredients for a ritual. An old prophecy speaks of his return requiring the blood of 13 Lunaborn, sacrificed under a black moon." "When's the next black moon?" Theron asked. 10 days. Silence fell like a shroud. "We need to evacuate anyone who fits the profile," Marin said. "Get them behind fortress walls where we can protect them." Garrison, still present despite his demotion, laughed bitterly. "And then what? We turtle up while the exiled king gathers his army? That's cowardice, not strategy." Theron's eyes flashed. "What would you suggest?" "Hunt him down. Take the fight to the rogues before they bring it to us. We have the strongest alpha in 5 territories and now, apparently, a Luna." Garrison's gaze raked over Sarah with poorly concealed contempt. "Let's see if she's worth the trouble she's caused." "Careful," Theron growled, the bond flooding with protective fury. But Sarah stepped forward before the situation could escalate. "He's right." Everyone stared. "Not about me being trouble," she clarified, meeting Garrison's glare without flinching, "but about taking the fight to them. If the exiled king needs 13 Lunaborn for his ritual, every day we wait is another day he's gathering victims. We can't let that happen." "You've been a wolf for less than a day," Garrison sneered. "What could you possibly know about warfare?" "I know what it's like to be a prisoner, to be helpless while others decide your fate." Sarah's voice was steady, but her hands clenched at her sides. "If there are Lunaborn out there being hunted, I won't hide behind walls while they suffer. That's not what a Luna does." The room went silent. Several warriors exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from skepticism to something like respect. Theron moved to stand beside her, a united front. "My mate speaks wisdom. We'll split our forces. Half to evacuate and protect the villages, half to track the rogue army. I'll lead the hunting party." "I'm coming with you," Sarah said. "Absolutely not." The bond crackled with their opposing wills. Sarah turned to face him fully, lowering her voice so only he could hear. "You can't protect me forever. I need to learn to fight. And those people out there, they're my people now. My responsibility as much as yours. You had your first shift yesterday. You barely know how to control your wolf. Then teach me. We have the journey to the western border, don't we?" She held his gaze, unflinching. "I'm not asking for permission, Theron. I'm telling you I'm going." For a long moment, they stared at each other, the mate bond vibrating with tension. Finally, Theron's lips quirked in something that might have been a smile. "You're going to be a pain in my ass, aren't you? Every single day." He turned back to the war room. "The Luna and I will lead the hunting party. Garrison, you'll oversee the evacuations. Consider it your chance to prove your loyalty. Kasha, I need you to research everything you can about the exiled king's rituals. If we can disrupt the ceremony, we might be able to stop his return. And if we can't," Marin asked quietly. Theron's expression hardened. "Then we kill him before he fully manifests." Orders flew. Warriors dispersed to prepare. Within the hour, the hunting party was assembled. 20 of Theron's best fighters, including Marin, who refused to be left behind. As Sarah prepared to leave, Elder Kasha pulled her aside. "There's something you need to know," the elder said, producing a small leather journal. "I found this in the archives last night. It belonged to your mother." Sarah's hands trembled as she took the journal. "My mother? How?" "She left it here years ago, before she went into hiding. I recognized her name in the records, Lina Moonshadow. She was the last surviving heir of the Moonshadow pack before the massacre." Kasha's expression was grave. She knew they'd come for her eventually. This journal contains everything she learned about the exiled king, including how he might be stopped. Sarah opened the journal. Her mother's handwriting filled the pages. Elegant, hurried, desperate. "If you're reading this, my daughter, then I am gone and the seal has broken. Forgive me for binding your wolf, but it was the only way to hide you from those who hunt our kind. The exiled king fears Lunaborn, because we are his only weakness. Our light can banish his darkness, but only if we're strong enough to wield it. Find your strength, Sarah. Find your pack. And when the time comes, don't hesitate. His heart lies in shadow, and only moonfire can burn it away. Tears blurred Sarah's vision. She knew this would happen. She prepared for it as best she could. That journal contains rituals, prophecies, and weaknesses. Study it carefully. Cassius squeezed her shoulder. Your mother was one of the bravest women I ever knew. You have her strength, child. Trust in that. The hunting party departed at noon, riding hard toward the western border. Sarah rode beside Theron, still clumsy in the saddle but determined not to slow them down. The mate bond hummed with his constant awareness of her, a tether that was both comforting and occasionally suffocating. Stop worrying, she projected through the bond. I'm not going to fall off. You almost did 10 minutes ago, he replied, amusement coloring his mental voice. That doesn't count. The horse sneezed. Despite the danger they rode toward, Sarah felt something unfamiliar blooming in her chest. Not quite happiness, but close. Purpose. Belonging. For the first time in her life, she wasn't running from something. She was running toward it. They made camp at dusk in a clearing surrounded by ancient pines. While the warriors set watches and prepared a meal, Theron led Sarah away from the camp. Time for your first real lesson, he said. They stopped in a moonlit glade. Theron stripped off his shirt, muscles rippling in the silver light. Shifting at will takes practice. Your wolf emerged during the bonding because of the ritual's power. Now you need to learn to call her consciously. How? Close your eyes. Feel for the place where she lives inside you. It'll feel like a door, or a pool of water, something that separates her from your human side. He circled her slowly. Once you find it, you need to dive in. Let go of your human form and embrace the wolf. Sarah closed her eyes, searching inward. At first, she felt nothing but her own heartbeat. Then, slowly, she sensed it, a presence, wild and powerful, curled in the depths of her consciousness. Her wolf, patient and waiting. Come, Sarah called to her. The wolf opened one silver eye. And then power surged through her like a river breaking a dam. Her bones shifted, reformed. Fur erupted across her skin. The world exploded into a symphony of scents and sounds she'd never imagined. When the shift completed, she stood on 4 legs, panting with exhilaration. Theron had shifted too, his massive black wolf circling her appraisingly. Good. Now we run. He took off into the forest, and Sarah chased after him, her wolf's instincts guiding her movements. They ran through moonlit trees, leaping over streams and fallen logs, the world reduced to the simple joy of movement. For an hour they ran. And for that hour, Sarah forgot about prophecies and battles and ancient evils. She was just a wolf, running beneath the moon with her mate. When they finally shifted back, both were breathless and laughing. Not bad for a second shift, Theron said, pulling her close. You're a natural. I had a good teacher. He kissed her then, deep and claiming, the mate bond singing with shared pleasure. When they finally pulled apart, his forehead rested against hers. Whatever comes, he murmured, we face it together. Promise me. I promise. But even as she said it, a chill ran down her spine. In the distance, a raven cawed. Once, twice, 3 times. Theron's expression darkened. That's a death omen. They returned to camp to find chaos. One of the scouts had collapsed, foam bubbling from his lips. Elder Cash's emergency healing kit was spread around him. But even from a distance, Sarah could see it was too late. Poison, Marin said grimly. Shadow root. He's been dead since before he hit the ground. Theron knelt beside the body, examining it with cold efficiency. Check everyone. Now. But Sarah's attention had caught on something else. A piece of parchment clutched in the dead scout's hand. She pried it free and unfolded it. Written in blood were 4 words. The Luna is mine. Below the words was a symbol she recognized from her mother's journal. The broken crown, dripping with thorns. The exiled king knew where they were. And he was coming. Chapter 7. The Blood Moon Rises. They burned the scout's body before dawn. Sarah stood beside Theron as flames consumed the fallen warrior, her hand clasped in his. Through the mate bond, she felt his grief, sharp and controlled, buried beneath layers of alpha authority. But it was there, a wound that wouldn't heal until justice was served. His name was Corbin, Theron said quietly as the fire crackled. He had a mate waiting for him back at the fortress. 2 children. Guilt twisted in Sarah's gut. This is my fault. If I wasn't here. Don't. Theron's grip tightened on her hand. The exiled king has been hunting Lunaborn for centuries. You're not responsible for his evil. But I'm the reason he's focused on this territory now. No, you're the reason we have a chance to stop him. He turned to face her fully, his amber eyes blazing in the firelight. Without you, we'd be fighting blind. Your mother's journal might give us the edge we need. Marin approached, her face grim. The scouts found tracks heading west toward the Shadowfen. Dozens of rogues, maybe more. They're not even trying to hide their trail. Because it's a trap, Theron said. They want us to follow. So what do we do? One of the warriors asked. Sarah spoke before Theron could. We spring it. Every head turned toward her. They expect us to be cautious, she continued, the words coming from some instinct she didn't know she possessed. To hold back, protect ourselves. But every hour we wait is another hour the exiled king has to complete his ritual. We can't afford caution anymore. She's right, Marin said. We hit them hard and fast before they're ready. Garrison, who'd been unusually quiet since the poisoning, stepped forward. And if the entire rogue army is waiting for us in the Shadowfen, we'll be slaughtered. Then we make sure we're not the ones who get slaughtered, Theron said, his tone leaving no room for argument. We move at first light. Marin, send word back to the fortress. Tell them if we don't return in 3 days, Elder Kasha is to evacuate everyone north beyond the mountain passes. The implications hung heavy in the air. This might be a one-way mission. The Shadowfen was a cursed place. Ancient trees twisted toward a perpetually gray sky, their roots choking pools of stagnant water that reeked of decay. Mist clung to everything, thick enough to taste. Even the birds refused to sing here. Sarah's wolf prowled restlessly beneath her skin, sensing danger in every shadow. They'd been traveling through the Fun for hours, the rogue tracks leading them deeper into the labyrinth of dead trees and black water. Theron had shifted their formation. Warriors on the flanks, Sarah protected in the center, every sense straining for the ambush they knew was coming. Feel anything? Theron's voice echoed through the mate bond. Sarah closed her eyes, reaching out with senses she was still learning to control. Her Luna gift extended beyond just her pack. She could sense other wolves, feel the pulse of life around her. And right now, that pulse was screaming danger. We're surrounded, she projected back. At least 50, maybe more. They're waiting for us to reach the clearing ahead. Can you tell how many are Lunaborn prisoners? She pushed her awareness further, searching for that particular resonance. The silver thread that marked those touched by moon magic. 3. All children. They're terrified. Theron's fury blazed through the bond. Then we get them out, whatever it costs. He raised his hand, signaling the party to halt. In quick, silent gestures, he communicated the plan. The warriors spread out, forming a circle rather than a line. When the trap sprung, they'd be ready. They entered the clearing. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the mist exploded with movement. Rogues poured from the trees. Massive wolves with matted fur and feral eyes, more beast than sentient being. They moved with unnatural coordination, clearly under the control of something darker than simple pack instinct. For the exiled king. One of them howled and the battle began. Sarah shifted mid-stride, her silver wolf bursting free. She'd been training for only days, but instinct guided her movements. A rogue lunged at her throat. She twisted, her jaws clamping down on its leg. Bone crunched beneath her teeth. Stay close to me. Theron's black wolf appeared at her side, massive and deadly. His jaws closed around a rogue's throat, shaking once before tossing the body aside. But there were too many. For every rogue they killed, 2 more appeared from the mist. A yelp of pain. Marin went down, a rogue's claws raking across her flank. Sarah didn't think, just reacted. Silver light exploded from her body. The Luna power she'd only just discovered erupting in a wave of pure energy. The rogues attacking Marin shrieked and fell back, their skins smoking where her light touched them. The children. Sarah projected to Theron. I can feel them, north side of the clearing, in a cage. Go. I'll cover you. Sarah bolted toward the source of terror she felt through her Luna sense. Rogues tried to intercept her, but each time they got close, her light flared, driving them back. She was a comet of silver fire, unstoppable in her purpose. She found them huddled in a cage of thorned iron. 3 children, none older than 10, their eyes wide with fear and silver with Luna heritage. The lock was complex, but Sarah's claws were sharper. She tore at the mechanism until it gave way. Run! she commanded, shifting back to human form long enough to speak. Run toward the black wolf. He'll protect you. But before the children could move, the mist around them solidified. A figure emerged from the darkness. Tall, gaunt, wearing robes that seemed woven from shadow itself. His face was hidden behind a mask of bone, but his eyes glowed crimson through the eye holes. Lunaborn, the figure hissed, his voice like nails on stone. The master has been waiting for you. Sarah shifted back to wolf form, placing herself between the children and the threat. Her lips pulled back in a snarl. You cannot stop what's coming, the robed figure continued. The black moon rises in 8 days. 13 Lunaborn will bleed, and the exiled king will walk free. You can die here, or you can come willingly and spare these children. Sarah, don't listen to him. Theron's voice roared through the bond. She could feel him fighting his way toward her, but the rogues blocked his path. Come, child of moonlight, the figure coaxed, extending one skeletal hand. Embrace your destiny. Become the key that unlocks his prison, and he will grant you power beyond imagining. Sarah's response was a howl that shattered the air. Light exploded from her body. Not the gentle healing glow she'd used before, but something fiercer. White fire that burned with the fury of a falling star. The robed figure screamed and fell back, his shadowy robes catching flame. Wrong answer, Sarah growled through the mate bond. She charged, her silver form a blur of light and rage. Her jaws found the figure's throat, and even though her teeth met shadow rather than flesh, her luna fire burned it away. The figure dissolved into screaming darkness, his final words echoing through the clearing. She comes, the Queen of Shadows, she comes for you. Then he was gone, nothing left but ash and the smell of burnt darkness. The remaining rogues, sensing their master's lieutenant destroyed, broke ranks and fled into the mist. Within minutes, the clearing was empty except for Theron's warriors and 3 terrified children. Sarah shifted back, exhaustion crashing over her. Theron caught her before she hit the ground, his arms solid and warm around her. I've got you, he murmured. You did it. You saved them. But Sarah's mind was still on the figure's final words. Theron, he said, she comes. Not he. She. Theron's expression darkened. The Queen of Shadows. I'd hoped that was just legend. What legend? Elder Cash's voice came from behind them. The elder had somehow tracked them into the Shadowfen. The exiled king had a mate. Before his banishment, he bonded with a Lunaborn so powerful that her light turned to darkness. They say she followed him beyond the veil, and together they've been waiting for a chance to return. Sarah's blood ran cold. So we're not fighting one ancient evil. We're fighting 2. It appears so. Casha knelt beside the children, checking them for injuries. But you've bought us time. With their lieutenant destroyed, the rogues will need days to reorganize. And these 3 children are safe now. Marin limped over, her wounds already healing thanks to her wolf's natural regeneration. We should head back to the fortress. Regroup, plan our next move. But Theron was staring at the ash pile where the robed figure had fallen, his expression troubled. Something's wrong. That fight was too easy. Easy. Garrison laughed bitterly, nursing a gash across his chest. We lost 4 warriors and nearly died ourselves. Exactly. They had us outnumbered, surrounded, with the element of surprise. They should have overwhelmed us. But they held back, like they were. He trailed off, understanding dawning in his eyes. Like they were testing us. Testing her. All eyes turned to Sarah. They wanted to see what the Luna could do, Theron continued, his voice tight with barely controlled fury. This whole ambush was designed to make her use her power. To show them what she's capable of. Why? Sarah asked, though dread was already pooling in her stomach. Elder Cash's face had gone pale. Because the ritual doesn't just require 13 Lunaborn to die. It requires one to willingly embrace the darkness. One strong enough to become the vessel for the Shadow Queen's return. The world tilted beneath Sarah's feet. They're not trying to kill you, Casha whispered. They're trying to corrupt you. To turn your light into shadow, just like they did to the original queen. If they succeed, if you fall, the exiled king and his mate will have bodies to inhabit. They'll walk the earth again in flesh and blood. Theron pulled Sarah close, his arms forming a cage around her. Over my dead body. That, Garrison said quietly, can probably be arranged. He pointed toward the sky, where the sun was setting. But it wasn't setting into darkness. It was setting into red, deep, bloody crimson that painted the clouds like a wound across the heavens. The blood moon begins, Kasha breathed. The cycle has started. In 8 days, the black moon will rise. And unless we find a way to stop it, this world will burn. They made camp at the edge of the Shadowfen, too exhausted to continue. Sarah sat by the fire, her mother's journal open in her lap, searching desperately for something, anything, that might help. Theron sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. Through the bond, she felt his worry, his protectiveness, his absolute determination that she would not fall to darkness. "There has to be a way," she murmured, flipping through pages. "My mother wouldn't have left me this journal if there wasn't hope." "What if there isn't?" Theron asked quietly. "What if the only way to stop them is?" He couldn't finish, but Sarah heard it anyway through the bond. "What if the only way to stop them is to kill you before they can corrupt you?" "Then you do it," she said, meeting his eyes. "If I start to turn, if the darkness takes me, you end it. Promise me." "Sarah, promise me, Theron. I won't become their weapon. I won't let them use me to destroy everything." His jaw clenched, every muscle in his body radiating refusal. But finally, after what felt like an eternity, he nodded once. "I promise." His voice was broken glass. "But it won't come to that. We'll find another way." Sarah returned to the journal, her eyes scanning the cramped handwriting. And then near the back, she found it. A passage circled in red ink, clearly marked as important. "The Shadow Queen's power comes from stolen moonlight. Lunaborn who were corrupted and absorbed into her essence. But there is a weakness. If a Lunaborn of sufficient strength faces her willingly, armed with the pure light of the uncorrupted moon, she can be severed from her stolen power. It will destroy the Lunaborn in the process, but it will also destroy the Queen." Sarah read it 3 times, her hands trembling. A sacrifice. That's what her mother was telling her. The only way to stop the Shadow Queen was for a Luna to sacrifice herself. She closed the journal before Theron could read over her shoulder, projecting calm through the bond even as her heart shattered. 8 days until the black moon. 8 days to save everyone. 8 days to prepare for a death she'd always known was coming. Chapter 8. The Price of Light. They returned to Iron Peak Fortress at dawn, battered and bloodied but alive. News of their victory, and the revelation about the Shadow Queen, spread through the pack like wildfire. Sarah felt the weight of every gaze as she walked through the courtyard. Fear, hope, suspicion, reverence. All tangled together in the eyes of wolves who now understood what was coming. A Lunaborn powerful enough to challenge the Shadow Queen. Some saw her as their salvation. Others saw her as the threat that would bring destruction to their doorstep. Elder Kasha called an emergency council meeting within the hour. The war room was packed. Every alpha, beta, and elder from the surrounding territories had been summoned. Maps covered the walls, marked with red ink showing rogue movements. At the center stood a detailed illustration of the ritual circle the exiled king would need. 8 days, Kasha announced without preamble. That's how long we have before the black moon rises, and the ritual can be completed. The exiled king needs 13 Lunaborn. Our scouts report he's captured 9 so far. Murmurs rippled through the room. "For more," someone whispered. "He only needs 4 more." "We've evacuated all known Lunaborn within 3 territories," Theron said, his voice cutting through the noise. "They're behind fortress walls now, under constant guard. But the exiled king's forces are growing. Every day, more rogues flock to his banner. An older alpha with silver streaking his beard stood. Then we strike first. Take the fight to him before the black moon rises. Cut off the serpent's head." "We don't know where he is," Garrison countered. He'd been reinstated to the council after his performance in the Shadowfen, his wounds from the battle earning him grudging respect. "The rogues scatter after every attack. We could chase shadows for weeks and never find him." "Not true." Sarah spoke for the first time, and the room fell silent. She stood, feeling the weight of their attention, and placed her mother's journal on the table. "The ritual requires a specific location, a place where the veil between worlds is thinnest. According to my mother's research, there are only 3 such places in the 5 territories." She pointed to the map. "The Whispering Stones, the Deadwater Lake, and the Broken Cathedral." Theron leaned forward, studying the locations. "The Whispering Stones were destroyed in the last war. The Deadwater Lake is in neutral territory, heavily monitored. That leaves the Broken Cathedral," Marin finished. "An ancient temple in the Forsaken Peaks. No pack has claimed that territory for centuries. It's said to be cursed ground." "Because it is," Elder Kasha said grimly. That's where the original Luna Council performed the banishment ritual 300 years ago. The veil is scarred there, thin enough to tear. Then that's where we go, Sarah said, her voice stronger than she felt. We fortify the area, prepare defenses. When the exiled king comes for his ritual, we'll be waiting. That's suicide, an elder protested. We'd be walking into the heart of his power on cursed ground, during a black moon when our wolf magic will be weakened. Do you have a better plan? Sarah challenged. Silence answered her. Theron stood beside her, a united front. We have 8 days to prepare. I want every warrior trained in anti-corruption wards. Elder Kasha, you'll teach them the old prayers. Marin, organize supply chains. We'll need silver weapons, moonstone talismans, anything that can hold against shadow magic. And the Lunaborn prisoners? Someone asked. What if we can't rescue them before the ritual? The question hung heavy in the air. Sarah felt Theron's hand find hers beneath the table, squeezing gently. Then we make sure their deaths aren't in vain, she said quietly. We stop the exiled king from rising, no matter the cost. The council dispersed, each member leaving with grim determination. Only Theron, Marin, and Elder Kasha remained. There's something you're not telling us, Kasha said, her sharp eyes fixed on Sarah. I saw your face when you read that journal. You found something. Sarah's throat tightened. Through the mate bond, she felt Theron's immediate concern. Tell me, he commanded softly. There was no hiding from him. The bond connected them too deeply. Slowly, Sarah opened the journal to the marked passage and slid it across the table. Theron read it once. Twice. His face went completely still, but through the bond, Sarah felt his emotions, denial, fury, anguish, and underneath it all, a grief so profound it nearly brought her to her knees. No. His voice was barely a whisper. It's the only way. No. The word exploded from him, power rippling outward. The table cracked beneath his hands. I won't let you sacrifice yourself. There has to be another way. There isn't. Sarah's voice remained steady, even as tears threatened. You read it. The Shadow Queen's power comes from corrupted Lunas. Only an uncorrupted Luna can destroy her, but the effort will kill you. I know what it says. Theron's eyes blazed gold. And I'm telling you we'll find another way. My lord, Kasha said carefully, if the text is accurate, I don't care if it's carved in the moon itself. Theron's fury washed over them. She's my mate, my Luna. I won't watch her die. And I won't watch everyone else die because I was too afraid to do what's necessary. Sarah stood, facing him fully. This is my choice, Theron. My power, my responsibility. You've been a wolf for less than a week. You don't get to decide. I'm Luna. The words came out in a commanding tone that surprised even her. Power rippled from her voice, ancient and absolute. This pack is mine to protect, just as much as it's yours. And if my death saves them, then that's the price I'll pay. The mate bond thrummed with their opposing wills. Two alphas locked in a battle neither could win. Finally, Theron spoke, his voice raw. You want to talk about choices? Fine. But you're not the only one making them. If you die, the mate bond will kill me too. Losing a true mate destroys the surviving wolf. You know this. So your sacrifice doesn't just cost your life. It costs mine too. The words hit like a physical blow. Sarah had been so focused on saving everyone else, she hadn't considered that. Unless, Kasha said quietly, you sever the bond before the garrison. Rage flooded through her. He'd betrayed them. Sold them out to the exiled king in exchange for what? Power. Survival. Theron's black wolf appeared at her side, his fury blazing through the bond. The traitor dies tonight. But before they could reach garrison, a portal of darkness ripped open in the center of the courtyard. Shadow poured from it like liquid night, and from that darkness stepped a woman. She was beautiful in a terrible way. Pale skin, black hair that moved like living shadow, and eyes that burned crimson. She wore a crown of thorns, and power radiated from her like heat from a forge. The Shadow Queen had come. Hello, little Luna, she purred, her voice like poisoned honey. I've been waiting so long to meet you. Chapter 9. The Queen of Shadows. The Shadow Queen's presence sucked the warmth from the air. Frost spread across the courtyard stones, and every torch flickered and dimmed. Warriors froze mid-battle, their wolves whimpering at the sheer wrongness of her existence. Sarah shifted back to human form, standing naked and defiant in the moonlight. Power crackled across her skin, silver light answering the darkness with instinctive opposition. You're early, Sarah said, forcing her voice to remain steady. The black moon hasn't risen yet. The Shadow Queen laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Did you think I needed the ritual to manifest? How delightfully naive. She circled Sarah like a predator studying prey. The ritual is for my mate's return. I've been walking this world in shadow for decades, feeding on the fear and corruption of lesser wolves. But you, her crimson eyes blazed brighter. You are something special. Pure Luna bloodline, untainted by doubt or darkness. You would make such a perfect vessel. Theron shifted back, moving to stand between Sarah and the Queen. You'll have to go through me first. The loyal mate. How touching. The Queen's smile revealed teeth too sharp to be human. But you misunderstand, Alpha. I'm not here to fight. Not yet. I'm here to offer your Luna a choice. We're not interested in your deals, Theron growled. Aren't you? The Queen gestured, and the darkness around her rippled. Images formed in the shadow. The 13 Lunaborn prisoners, chained in a circle around a stone altar. They were children, the oldest no more than 15, their faces streaked with tears and terror. Sarah's heart clenched. Tomorrow night, when the black moon rises, my mate will return, the Queen continued. These children will die, their essence fueling his resurrection. It will be painful, prolonged. They'll scream for hours before the end comes. Monster, Marin spat from the sidelines. The Queen's smile never wavered. But it doesn't have to be this way. I'm offering you an alternative, little Luna. Come with me willingly. Let me show you the power that awaits in the darkness. Join us, and I'll release the children. Every single one. Lies, Theron snarled. Is it? The Queen tilted her head. I gain nothing from killing children except fuel for a ritual I don't truly need. But a Luna of your power, willingly turned to shadow? That would be worth far more than 13 frightened lambs. Through the mate bond, Sarah felt Theron's absolute conviction. Don't listen to her. It's a trap. But Sarah was staring at the children in the shadow images, at their tear-stained faces and trembling hands. 13 innocent lives. 13 futures stolen. How do I know you'll keep your word? Sarah asked. No. Theron grabbed her arm. You're not seriously considering this. Sarah met his eyes, letting him see her determination through the bond. 13 children, Theron. Can we really condemn them to die? We can't trust her, he insisted. The moment you agree, she'll corrupt you and kill them anyway. The Shadow Queen laughed. He knows me so well. But what he doesn't know is that I was once like you, little Luna. Pure and bright, convinced my light could save everyone. Her expression hardened. The world broke me of that delusion. It will break you too. Better to embrace the darkness willingly than have it forced upon you. What happened to you? Sarah asked, genuine curiosity cutting through her fear. For a moment, something almost human flickered across the Queen's face. I loved an alpha who the world called evil. When they tried to tear us apart, to banish him beyond the veil, I followed. I gave everything for love, my light, my pack, my soul. And I would do it again. Her crimson eyes blazed. That's what love truly is, little Luna. Not the pretty stories they tell in the moonlight. It's sacrifice, destruction, the willingness to burn the world for the one who matters most. She extended one pale hand. So I ask you, how far will you go for love? Will you sacrifice yourself to save children you don't know? Or will you let them die to preserve your precious light? The courtyard had gone deathly silent. Every wolf watched, waiting to see what their Luna would choose. Through the bond, Theron's voice was desperate. Sarah, please, don't do this. We'll find another way. There is no other way, she replied. You know that as well as I do. She stepped forward, toward the Queen's outstretched hand. Theron's grip tightened on her arm, not restraining but pleading. If you go with her, you won't come back. The corruption will take you, and I'll lose you forever. Sarah turned to face him fully, cupping his face in her hands. Through the mate bond, she poured every ounce of love, gratitude, and grief she felt. Then remember me as I am now, she whispered. Not as what I might become. She kissed him, deep and desperate, tasting salt from tears she didn't know she was crying. The mate bond sang between them, beautiful and terrible, a connection that would survive death itself. When she pulled away, Theron's eyes blazed with anguish and fury. I'm coming for you. Whatever happens, wherever she takes you, I will find you and bring you home. I know. Sarah smiled through her tears. You always do. She turned back to the Shadow Queen and placed her hand in the creature's grasp. Ice shot through Sarah's veins. Darkness crawled up her arm like living shadow, burrowing beneath her skin. She gasped, fighting the urge to pull away, to run back to the safety of Theron's arms. Excellent choice, the queen purred. Now, let's see what you're really made of. Both Theron and Sarah turned to stare at her. It can be done, the elder continued, though her expression showed how much she hated suggesting it. A mate bond can be severed through ancient magic. It's excruciating, and it leaves scars on both souls, but it would allow one mate to die without killing the other. Absolutely not, Theron growled. But Sarah's mind was already racing. If she could sever the bond, save the pack, and let Theron live. Wasn't that the best possible outcome? Don't, Theron's voice warned through the bond, sensing her thoughts. Don't even think it. We have 8 days, Marin interjected, her tone carefully neutral. Let's use them to explore every option. Maybe there's a way to weaken the Shadow Queen without requiring a sacrifice. Maybe we can disrupt the ritual before it reaches that point. Maybe is not a plan, Garrison said from the doorway. No one had noticed him return. But the Luna is right about one thing. We need to be prepared for all possibilities, including the one where our Luna dies to save us. Get out, Theron snarled. Garrison didn't move. I'm not saying this to be cruel. I'm saying it because someone has to speak truth. We're at war. In war, people die. Even Lunas. Theron moved faster than sight, slamming Garrison against the wall with one hand around his throat. Say that again, and you'll be the one who dies. Stop. Sarah's command carried Luna authority, forcing both alphas to freeze. Both of you. Fighting each other won't help. Slowly, Theron released Garrison, who slumped against the wall, gasping. We have 8 days, Sarah repeated, her voice firm. We use that time to prepare for battle and search for alternatives. But if there are no alternatives when the black moon rises, then I do what needs to be done. That's final. She walked out before anyone could argue, her composure cracking the moment she was alone in the corridor. Tears streamed down her face as the weight of what she'd committed to crashed over her. 8 days to live. 8 days to love. 8 days to be the Luna these wolves needed her to be. Footsteps echoed behind her. She didn't need to turn to know it was Theron. The mate bond sang with his presence. I hate you right now, he said quietly. I know, but I love you more than I've ever loved anything in my life. Sarah turned, and the anguish on his face broke her heart. Then help me. Help me make these last days count. Help me be strong enough to do this. For a long moment, he just stared at her. Then he pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. 8 days, he whispered into her hair. I'll give you 8 days to find another way. But if the black moon rises and you still plan to sacrifice yourself, then I'm coming with you. We face the darkness together, or not at all. Theron, don't argue. You said it yourself. You're Luna, I'm Alpha. We protect the pack together. That means we die together too, if it comes to that. Through the bond, Sarah felt his absolute conviction. There would be no changing his mind. Together then, she whispered. Always. The next 7 days passed in a blur of preparation. Warriors trained from dawn until dusk, learning anti-corruption wards and shadow fighting techniques. Elder Kasha worked tirelessly, researching every scrap of information about the exiled king and his mate. Marin organized supply chains, ensuring every warrior had silver weapons and moonstone talismans. And Sarah spent every moment learning to control the power that pulsed beneath her skin. Elder Kasha taught her the old prayers, the sacred words that could call down moonlight even in darkness. Theron trained her in combat, pushing her harder than any other warrior, because they both knew she'd need every advantage. At night, they held each other, neither speaking of what was coming. The mate bond glowed between them, precious and fragile, a light they both knew might soon be extinguished. On the 6th day, a scout returned with news that turned Sarah's blood to ice. The exiled king has his 13. The scout gasped, collapsing in the courtyard. The last 4 Lunaborn were taken from a village we thought was safe. He has everything he needs for the ritual. Theron's expression went cold as winter. Then we march tomorrow. We reach the broken cathedral before the black moon rises, and we end this. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She slipped from bed while Theron dozed fitfully and made her way to the highest tower of the fortress. The moon hung low in the sky, still full and silver, but tomorrow it would begin to wane. In 2 days, it would be gone completely. The black moon, when the world would be plunged into darkness and ancient evils could walk free. I'm not ready, she whispered to the moon. I don't know how to be brave enough for this. The moon offered no answer, but the mark on her shoulder blade blazed warm, as if her mother's spirit reached across death to comfort her. Footsteps sounded behind her. Marin appeared, carrying 2 cups of tea. Couldn't sleep either? Her friend asked, offering one of the cups. Sarah accepted it gratefully. How do you do it? How do warriors face death knowing they might not come back? We remember what we're fighting for. Marin smiled sadly. Family. Pack. The future we want our children to inherit. Death is scary, but living in a world ruled by the exiled king? That's terrifying. I'm afraid I'll fail, Sarah admitted. That I won't be strong enough when the moment comes. Then you won't face it alone. Marin squeezed her shoulder. You have Theron, you have me, you have an entire pack willing to die for you. That's not weakness, Sarah. That's the greatest strength any Luna could possess. Before Sarah could respond, horns blared from the watchtowers. Attack! They raced down the stairs, Sarah shifting mid-stride. Her silver wolf burst free just as rogues poured over the fortress walls. Dozens of them, more than should have been able to penetrate their defenses. Betrayal! Someone screamed. Someone opened the gates. Through the chaos, Sarah caught sight of a familiar figure fighting alongside the rogues. The shadows exploded outward, swallowing Sarah whole. She heard Theron roar her name, felt him lunge toward her through the bond, but the darkness was faster. It pulled her down into depths that had no bottom, into a void where light had never existed. When the shadows cleared, they were gone. The Shadow Queen, Sarah, even the portal, all vanished as if they'd never existed. Theron stood in the empty courtyard, his fists clenched so tightly blood dripped from his palms. The mate bond still thrummed, weak, distant, but alive. She wasn't dead. Not yet. Mobilize everyone, he commanded, his voice deadly calm. We march on the broken cathedral now. We have until the black moon rises tomorrow night to find her and end this. My lord. Elder Kasha stepped forward carefully. The corruption may have already begun. If she's turned when we find her, then I'll bring her back. Theron's eyes blazed gold. Or I'll die trying. Garrison chose that moment to laugh from where he'd been cornered by warriors during the chaos. Foolish Alpha. You think you can fight the Shadow Queen and win. She's already won. Your precious Luna is gone, and tomorrow night, the exiled king will rise. Everything you fought for will burn. Theron crossed the courtyard in 3 strides and grabbed Garrison by the throat, lifting him off the ground. Why? Why betray your own pack? Garrison's smile was stained with blood. Because I saw the future, and we're not in it. The exiled king promised me survival. He promised me power in the new world he'll create. That's more than you ever offered me. Then enjoy your last hours of that survival. Theron's grip tightened. Because tomorrow you die alongside your new master. He dropped Garrison, who collapsed, gasping. Lock him in the deepest cell, Theron ordered. If we survive tomorrow, he'll stand trial. If we don't, let him rot in the ruins. As warriors dragged Garrison away, Marin approached Theron. Her face was grim but determined. We're with you, she said quietly. Every warrior in this fortress. Whatever it takes, we bring her home. Theron nodded, unable to speak past the grief choking him. Through the bond, he reached out, searching for any trace of Sarah's consciousness. And found it, buried deep beneath layers of shadow but still fighting. Still burning with that stubborn light that had drawn him to her from the first moment. Hold on, he projected with every ounce of will he possessed. I'm coming for you. For a heartbeat, he thought he felt her respond. Then the connection faded to barely a whisper. Sarah woke in darkness, so complete she couldn't tell if her eyes were open or closed. Her body felt strange, heavy and light at the same time, as if she existed in 2 places at once. Awake already? Impressive. The Shadow Queen's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. Most Lunas succumbed to unconsciousness for days during the transition. Transition. Sarah tried to move and found she couldn't. Shadow tendrils wrapped around her wrists and ankles, holding her suspended in the void. From light to dark, my dear. From Luna to Shadow Queen. Footsteps circled her, though Sarah couldn't see their source. The process has already begun. Can't you feel it? The darkness seeping into your bones, whispering such sweet promises of power. Sarah did feel it, a cold, insidious presence crawling through her veins, trying to smother the light she carried. It whispered of all the things she could do with shadow magic, all the enemies she could destroy, all the pain she could inflict on those who'd hurt her. No, she told herself firmly. That's not who I am. Isn't it? The queen materialized before her, close enough to touch. You've been hurt, neglected, locked away for 12 years like an animal. Don't you want revenge on those who did that to you? Your father who allowed it? Your sister who mocked you? The world that called you broken? Images flooded Sarah's mind. Her father's face twisted in pain, her sister begging for mercy, the manor burning while she watched and smiled. It would be so easy. So satisfying. No, Sarah said aloud, forcing the images away. I'm not you. I don't choose revenge. Then you choose weakness. The queen's expression hardened. Love made me strong. What makes you strong, little Luna? Before Sarah could answer, new images appeared. Theron, Marin, Elder Kasha, every wolf who'd welcomed her to Iron Peak. The pack she'd sworn to protect. Them, Sarah whispered. They make me strong. Then watch them die. The shadows shifted, revealing a new scene. The broken cathedral, its ancient stones crumbling beneath a blood-red sky. And surrounding it an army of rogues. Hundreds, maybe thousands, all bearing the mark of the broken crown. Against them stood Theron's forces. Pitifully small. Hopelessly outnumbered. He's coming for you, the queen said. Your noble alpha mate, riding to his death. Because that's what happens to those who love Lunas. They sacrifice themselves for nothing. My mate was banished for loving me. Yours will die for loving you. Such is the curse of our kind. Sarah's heart clenched. Let me go. Let me warn them. They can't fight that army. But they will. And when they fall, when your mate breathes his last, you'll finally understand. Love doesn't save us. It destroys us. The queen leaned closer, her breath cold against Sarah's ear. Unless you embrace the darkness, join me willingly, and I'll spare him. Your mate will live to see the new world we create. More lies. No lies. A genuine offer. The queen straightened. I know what it's like to lose the one you love. I wouldn't wish that pain on anyone, even my enemy. So choose. Hold on to your light and watch him die, or embrace shadow and save him. Through the mate bond, Sarah felt Theron, exhausted, desperate, but absolutely determined. He was coming for her. Nothing would stop him. And the Shadow Queen was right. He would die trying. Unless Sarah found a way to stop this from inside. She closed her eyes, reaching deep inside herself for the light the queen was trying to smother. It was still there, buried beneath layers of shadow, but burning. Waiting. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. Find your strength, Sarah. And when the time comes, don't hesitate. His heart lies in shadow, and only moonfire can burn it away. Not his heart. Her heart. The Shadow Queen's heart. Sarah finally understood. The sacrifice wasn't about dying in battle. It was about burning away the darkness from within. About letting her light consume both the queen's corruption and herself in the process. But to do that, she needed to get closer. She needed the queen to lower her. You're right, Sarah said quietly, letting despair color her voice. I can't watch him die. I can't lose him like you lost your mate. The queen's eyes gleamed with triumph. Then you accept. You'll join me willingly? Sarah met her gaze and lied with every fiber of her being. Yes, I accept. The shadow tendrils released her. Sarah collapsed to the ground. Actual ground now, cold stone beneath her hands. They were in a chamber somewhere, lit by crimson torches that cast dancing shadows on the walls. The Shadow Queen extended both hands, smiling. Then let us begin your coronation, sister. Tomorrow, when the black moon rises, we'll rule this world together. Sarah took the queen's hands, feeling darkness pulse through the touch. But she held on, using the contact to map the queen's essence, to find the source of her stolen power. There, buried deep within the queen's chest, a knot of corrupted moonlight. 13 Lunaborn whose essence had been twisted and consumed. That was the source of her power. That was what needed to be burned away. Together, Sarah whispered, her light already gathering beneath her skin, hidden from the queen's perception by layers of shadow. Tomorrow night, the black moon would rise. And when it did, Sarah would make sure only one of them survived to see it. Chapter 10. Moonfire and Shadow. The black moon rose over the broken cathedral like a wound in the sky. A perfect circle of absolute darkness where the moon should have been. Stars flickered and died around it, as if even the heavens recoiled from what was about to unfold. Sarah stood at the heart of the ancient temple, dressed in robes of shadow that clung to her skin like living smoke. The Shadow Queen had spent the day preparing her, teaching her to channel the darkness, to let it flow through her veins alongside the light she'd been born with. But Sarah had learned something far more valuable. She'd learned the queen's weaknesses. Around them, the ritual circle blazed with crimson fire. 13 pedestals formed the outer ring, and on each one stood a Lunaborn child, bound by shadow chains that fed directly into the circle's center. Their terror was palpable, their tears reflecting the hellish light. At the circle's heart lay a stone altar, and carved into it was a doorway, the threshold between this world and the vale where the exiled king had been imprisoned for 3 centuries. "Can you feel it?" the Shadow Queen whispered beside Sarah, her crimson eyes gleaming with anticipation. "The barrier is thinning. In moments, he'll be free, and we'll be together again." Sarah could feel it. The air itself seemed to tear, reality bleeding at the edges. Through the growing rift, she sensed something ancient and malevolent pressing against the boundaries of their world, desperate to break through. "And after?" Sarah asked, playing her role. "After he returns? We reshape this world into something beautiful. No more hiding, no more persecution of Lunaborn. We'll rule together, and those who scorned us will kneel or burn." The queen's hand found Sarah's, squeezing with almost sisterly affection. "You won't regret this choice. I promise you that." But Sarah was barely listening. Through the mate bond, weak and distant but still alive, she felt Theron drawing closer. He'd brought his army to the broken cathedral, just as she'd known he would. "Don't come," she projected desperately. "Please, just turn back." But she knew he wouldn't. He'd never abandon her, even if it meant his death. Outside the temple, the sound of battle erupted. Steel clashing against claw, howls of fury and pain echoing through the ancient stones. Theron's forces had engaged the rogue army. The Shadow Queen sighed. "Your mate is admirably stubborn. A pity he'll die for nothing." She gestured, and shadow warriors materialized from the darkness. Dozens of them, flowing like liquid night toward the temple entrance to reinforce the rogues. This was it, Sarah's only chance. While the queen's attention was focused on the battle, Sarah reached deep inside herself, calling forth every scrap of Luna power she possessed. The light that had been hiding beneath layers of shadow surged to the surface, blazing white-hot and pure. "Now!" she screamed, not to the queen, but through the mate bond. There and now, the Shadow Queen spun, her eyes widening in shock as she realized the betrayal. "You!" Sarah didn't let her finish. She lunged forward, pressing both palms against the queen's chest, directly over the knot of corrupted moonlight she'd sensed yesterday. Silver fire erupted from her hands, not to heal, but to burn, to purify, to destroy. The queen shrieked, a sound that shattered stone and split the air. Shadow exploded outward, trying to throw Sarah back, but she held on with desperate strength. "You gave me everything I needed," Sarah gasped as moonfire poured from her body. "You showed me where your power comes from. Those 13 Lunaborn you corrupted. I can feel them inside you, screaming to be free." "Fool!" The queen's hands wrapped around Sarah's throat, squeezing. "If you burn away my stolen power, the backlash will kill you too." "I know." Sarah smiled through her tears. "That's the whole point." The temple doors exploded inward. Theron burst through in his massive black wolf form, followed by Marin and a squad of warriors. He shifted mid-stride, his human form covered in blood and ash, his amber eyes blazing with fury and fear. "Sarah, no." But Sarah's power had already reached critical mass. The moonfire blazed brighter, hotter, consuming the Shadow Queen from the inside out. The corrupted Luna essences trapped within the queen's chest began to tear free, drawn toward Sarah's purifying light like moths to a flame. The queen's screams reached a fever pitch. Her shadow form fractured, cracks of silver light splitting her darkness. "You'll doom us both. Better than dooming the world." Through the mate bond, Sarah felt Theron's anguish, his desperate need to reach her. She drank in the sensation of his love one last time, letting it fill her even as her body began to burn. "I'm sorry," she whispered, knowing he could hear her through the bond. "I love you. Remember me." "No." Theron lunged forward, but Elder Kasha appeared from the chaos, her ancient power creating a barrier between him and Sarah. "You can't stop this," the elder said, tears streaming down her face. "It's already begun." The moonfire exploded outward in a wave of pure, cleansing light. It washed over the 13 Lunaborn children, shattering their shadow chains and freeing them. It struck the Shadow Queen full force, and her screams dissolved into smoke and ash. But it didn't stop there. The light blazed brighter, consuming Sarah from within. Her skin began to crack like porcelain, silver light bleeding through the fractures. The pain was beyond anything she'd imagined, her body literally tearing itself apart to contain and channel the power needed to destroy the queen completely. Through her fading vision, she saw the altar begin to crumble. The doorway to the veil collapsed, severing the exiled king's connection to this world. His roar of fury and denial echoed from beyond the barrier before fading to nothing. They'd won. The ritual was broken. The king would remain imprisoned. But the cost? Sarah's legs gave out. She collapsed, and this time, no one caught her. The barrier Elder Kasha had created vanished, and Theron reached her in 3 strides, gathering her broken body into his arms. "No, no, no," he chanted like a prayer, his hands glowing with his own power as he tried desperately to heal her. "Don't you dare leave me. Fight, Sarah. Please." But there was nothing left to heal. The moonfire had consumed her from the inside out. Only Theron's arms and sheer force of will kept her from dissolving into ash like the Shadow Queen. Through the mate bond, fraying now, unraveling like thread, Sarah felt his heart break. It was a wound that would never heal, a grief that would follow him for the rest of his life. "I'm sorry," she managed, blood flecking her lips. "Had to save them." "You did. You saved everyone." Theron's tears fell onto her face. "But I don't want to be saved if it means losing you. Come back to me. Please." Sarah wanted to. How she wanted to. But the light was fading, pulling her down into a darkness that promised peace and an end to pain. "Love you," she whispered. "Always." Her eyes closed. Her breathing stopped. The mate bond shattered. Theron threw back his head and howled, a sound of such profound anguish that every wolf in the cathedral fell silent. Even the battle outside paused as that cry of grief echoed across mountains and valleys, a wound carved into the night itself. Around them, the 13 freed Lunaborn children began to glow. Soft silver light radiated from their skin, growing brighter with each passing second. They moved as one, drawn toward Sarah's broken body by instinct older than memory. "What are they doing?" Marin whispered. Elder Kasha's eyes widened in recognition. "The Luna's blessing. I've only read of it in the oldest texts. When a Luna sacrifices herself to save others, those she saved can offer their light in return. A resurrection, but only if all give freely and simultaneously." The children formed a circle around Theron and Sarah. Without speaking, they reached out their hands, and silver light flowed from them. Pure, uncorrupted Luna essence freely given. The light poured into Sarah's body. Her wounds began to close, flesh knitting back together. The cracks in her skin sealed, leaving behind marks that glowed like veins of starlight beneath her flesh. Theron felt it through the shattered mate bond, a spark, faint but growing stronger. "It's working," he breathed. "Keep going. Please." The children's light blazed brighter, and suddenly Sarah gasped. Her eyes flew open, no longer just silver, but burning with an inner radiance that was neither shadow nor pure light, but something in between. Something new. She sat up, disoriented, her hands glowing with power that made the air shimmer. What happened?" "You died," Theron said, his voice breaking. "And they brought you back." Sarah looked at the children, who smiled at her with exhaustion and joy. The oldest, a girl no more than 15, spoke for all of them. "You gave us our lives. We're just returning the favor, Luna." Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she pulled each child into an embrace. "Thank you, all of you." When she finally stood, supported by Theron's arms, she realized something fundamental had changed. The moonfire that had nearly destroyed her hadn't disappeared. It had merged with her essence, transforming her into something the world hadn't seen in millennia. A Luna of both light and shadow, a bridge between the pure and the corrupted, a beacon that could heal both. Elder Kasha approached, her expression awed. The prophecy spoke of this. When shadow and light become one, a new age dawns. "You've become something unprecedented, child. Not just Luna, but Luna Ascendant." "What does that mean?" Sarah asked. "It means," Theron said, his hand finding hers, "that you're even more trouble than I thought." Despite everything, Sarah laughed. It was weak, exhausted, but genuine. "You're stuck with me now." "Forever," he agreed, pulling her close. "I'm never letting you sacrifice yourself again." "Can't promise that." "Then I'll just have to die with you next time." Through their bond, reformed now, stronger than before, their love blazed like a second sun. Outside the temple, the battle had ended. The rogues, sensing their master's destruction, had fled or surrendered. The sun was rising, actual sun, breaking through clouds that had blocked it for days. A new dawn. A new age. Sarah stood at the temple entrance, looking out over the gathered wolves. Her pack, her people. She raised her hand, and moonlight answered even in daylight, silver fire dancing across her fingertips. "The exiled king is imprisoned," she announced, her voice carrying through the valley with Luna authority. "The Shadow Queen is destroyed. But the threat isn't gone forever. One day, they or something like them will return. So we must be ready. We must be strong. Not just in power, but in unity." She turned to address the Luna-born children beside her. "You were hunted, persecuted, called cursed. No more. From this day forward, Luna-born are under my protection. Any who harm them answer to me." A cheer rose from the assembled wolves, growing until it shook the very stones. Theron stepped forward, placing his hand over hers. "And they answer to me as well. The Luna has spoken, and her word is law." Together, they stood before their pack. Alpha and Luna, shadow and light, two halves of one soul. In the weeks that followed, the 5 territories slowly healed. The broken cathedral was rebuilt, transformed from a place of darkness into a sanctuary for Luna-born. Sarah established a school there, where young Lunas could learn to control their gifts without fear. Garrison was tried for his betrayal and sentenced to exile. A punishment some called too merciful, but Sarah had seen enough death. She wouldn't add to it unnecessarily. The 13 children she'd saved became her first students, learning to channel their Luna gifts for healing, protection, and peace. They called themselves the Moonfire Guard, and they swore oaths to protect the innocent as Sarah had protected them. And through it all, Theron remained at her side. They ruled together, not as conqueror and conquered, but as true partners. Where he brought strength, she brought compassion. Where she brought light, he brought shadow to balance it. Their mate bond had transformed too, no longer just a connection between two souls, but a bridge that others could cross. Through it, they could channel power to the entire pack, strengthening every wolf who pledged loyalty to Iron Peak. One night, 3 months after the battle, Sarah stood on the highest tower watching the full moon rise. It was silver again, pure and beautiful, all traces of the blood moon gone. Theron joined her, wrapping his arms around her waist from behind. "What are you thinking about? How different everything is now. 3 months ago, I was locked in a cellar, convinced I'd die there." She leaned back against his chest. "Now I'm Luna of the 5 territories with more responsibility than I ever imagined. Regrets? Not even one." He kissed her neck, right over the mate mark. "Good, because I'm never letting you go. Never, never." Through their bond, love and certainty flowed. A promise that would outlast stone and steel, darkness and light, even death itself. Far to the north, beyond the mountains and past the edge of the known world, something stirred in the depths of the veil. The exiled king remained trapped, his mate destroyed, but hatred and darkness were patient. One day, the barrier would weaken again. One day, new threats would rise. But when they did, they would find not a fractured pack of fearful wolves, but a united territory led by a Luna who had faced the darkness and emerged stronger. Sarah raised her head to the moon and howled, not in grief or pain, but in triumph, in gratitude, in promise. She had been broken. She had been betrayed. She had died and been reborn. And now she was exactly where she belonged, standing beside her mate, protecting her pack, ready to face whatever shadows the future might bring. Because she wasn't just Sarah anymore. She wasn't just Luna. She was hope incarnate. She was the light that refused to die. She was the girl who survived the cellar and became a queen. And her story, their story, was only beginning. The end.